really excited for this fight, and low-key, I haven't done this much tape study in a really long time. I'm very excited for this fight. At middleweight, we have Tafon Nchukwi representing Cameroon, taking on Jamie Pickett, the Night Wolf. Pickett coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And listen, I say Wilmington, but he's really from a small town that doesn't even have a stoplight. I heard that in an interview he did with TJ DeSantis and Dean Thomas, and this guy's last fight in Jamie Pickett was absolutely insane over on Dana White's Contender Series. It was his third opportunity on the show. And you know what they say? Third time's a charm. He got a big win over Jonathan Pettis, where he threw a 20-punch combo like Mortal Kombat and knocked him out. And it was absolutely insane. Again, the other two appearances on Dana White's Contender Series, 2017 and 2019. In 2017, he lost by submission to Charles Byrd, no longer in the UFC. In 2019, he lost a lopsided decision to Punahele Soriano. And the last time I checked, Puna Soriano is pretty darn good at middleweight. So, for Mr. Jamie Pickett, I mean, really good striker. He'll mix in the leg kick. He can wrestle a little bit. But when he puts that pressure on, and there's other fighters that kind of fight similar to him on this card, and I'll talk about them the further along we get along. But you know when Chris Daukaus does the thing at heavyweight, when he crashes forward and throws those hooks, that's kind of the way that Jamie Pickett really initiates his offense. Ayman Zahabi's another one of those fighters that when he presses forward and crashes forward, he finds a lot of success in the violence, and that sounds like something a fellow Canadian Robin Black would say. But for Jamie Pickett, that's kind of the key to success. For Tafon Nchukwi, I watched all 4 of his pro fights. I watched some of the Muay Thai fights because he's 13-1 in Muay Thai. He has a kickboxing background. Dana White compared him a little bit to Mike Tyson after he got his win over on Contender Series this past summer. The win over Al Matavao in a fight where, if you're a big Jamie Pickett fan, you want to find some pointers as to a way to beat Tafon Nchukwi. It's just land volume, land kicks, and do not try to wrestle him. Because I looked at Tafon Nchukwi and I figured, well, okay, this guy has a Muay Thai and kickboxing background. He stands really heavy and he throws a lot of power shots. Just wrestle him. It's going to be that easy. All right? You'd think it was that easy, right? So I went back and watched those 4 fights. His fight against Myers in his debut, his pro debut, he stuffed all 8 takedowns and knocked him out with, with a left straight. Knocked him completely, it hit him clean in the forehead, knocked him straight down. In his second pro fight, he took on A.T. McCowan. You go back and watch that one, no takedown attempts, they clinch up a little bit, and Nchukwi lands a knee and knocks him out. Then you go in and you watch the fight against William Knight. William Knight went, and I scored it 0 for 5 on takedown attempts. William Knight's a big guy. That fight was at a cruiserweight. So that's the other part of this. Nchukwi's fought at heavyweight, cruiserweight, and then he weighed in at 204 pounds for his last fight on Contender Series, so lightweight. This fight's at middleweight. Tafon Nchukwi is one of those guys that as he moves down in weight classes, you're losing that muscle mass. Now, we've seen fighters do it before. We've seen them move up. We've seen them move down with, varying success. I'm interested to see how Nchukwi makes out in this one because from what I've seen, his kicks are insane, and you talk about Muay Thai fighters in MMA, you either have a ton of success or you don't. You can either be Loma Lookboonmee or you can be Rafael Fiziev. To me, if Nchukwi threw a little bit more volume, maybe he'd be more similar to Fiziev, but right now, he is such a force, such a power puncher. That knockout that he had over Al Matavao was absolutely insane. Matt, I've talked a lot about this fight, but I've spent hours in tape study on this one. I'm really looking forward to it. What are your thoughts on this one?
I gotta be honest, I can't add that much more to your breakdown over it. Jamie Pickett's not gonna win this fight, and these are the reasons why. When you look at Tafon Nchukwi's striking, he is at such a high level, and John Franklin, gonna plug the post-fight show, he brought up a really good point about Rafael Fiziev, and he said that, why do we not give striking the sort of depth to it that we give grappling? Because with grappling, it's always, it's so pristine and there's so many different things going on. With strikers like the Tafon Nchukwis, with the Israel Adesanya's, with the Rafael Fizievs, they do look at striking a different way, and he can set up his strikes like not a lot of guys at middleweight can. And with a guy like Jamie Pickett, he does get a little wild with his shots, and we're going to bring this up later. Geoff Neal, when he has someone hurt, is perfect at finishing them. He doesn't get too wild. He doesn't just try to burn himself out going for the finish. He stays technical, and he does what got him to getting his opponent hurt in the first place. With Jamie Pickett, if he does hurt his opponent, I hate to use this term, but he just bum rushes them. And throws everything he can. So for Tafon Nchukwi, I do think that the volume will be an issue, but I don't think a guy like Jamie Pickett will be able to use that against him this early on in his career. As he does move up the ranks and we do start to see him fight, the Antonio Carlos Juniors, if you will, sort of the guys who aren't elite in the division but can offer him a lot of different looks, I do think he will struggle, but I like how the UFC has chosen to matchmake him early on. He is a phenomenal striker. He does have the really good takedown defense as well, and I just don't really see what Jamie Pickett can do to really take Tafon off his game.
That's the thing. I mean, for Tafon in his first pro fight, again, to go back to the Alex Myers fight, you watch it and you think, well, again, maybe he's going to gas himself out. You have all these takedown attempts from Myers, and Nchukwi, the one nice thing that he really does is when he gets posted up against the cage, he'll always work his way out of it. He either reverses his opponent or just completely gets out of it. He does a great job. You'd be surprised, to steal a term from, and I never thought I would, from Brendan Schaub, so apologies where they're due. But again, for a guy that's 4-0, it was kind of interesting to listen to Dana White after that episode of Contender Series, because he basically said, normally I give a guy like this a developmental deal, like they did with William Knight, and Nchukwi decided to say bye-bye William Knight, even though he made his way back. But Dana White was like, yeah, he scared me. That was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen, so on and so forth. Well, let's be honest. It wasn't one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen. It was
nice.
It was cool. It was great. And it earned him a shot at the dance. I think he might struggle, but he's coming out of a camp where, Lloyd Irvin's martial arts, say what you will, but Sadiq Youssef is a great guy to train with. I know totally different weight classes, but it seems like they pal around quite a bit. That's a good guy. They do have some good training partners there. And Matt, out of the Tapology picks, 670 we'll call it, 85% going with Nchukwi, 88% have him to win by knockout. If we have a look at the odds, Nchukwi is a minus 312 favorite, open to minus 256. For Jamie Pickett, open to plus 205. He's now a plus 246. So a lot of people are riding with Tafon Nchukwi in his UFC debut. The one thing with Jamie Pickett, again, the volume could really help him. If he really presses forward and hopefully he doesn't get caught by a shot, you never know, he could have success. He does tend to get backed up and he leaves his chin quite high. You never like to see that. I like Tafon Nchukwi in this fight. I'm really looking forward to it, but yeah, again, the weight's one of the concerns, again, from low 200s at heavyweight to then 204 at 205 and now to move down to middleweight. I'll be eager to see him on the scales, so it's one of those ones where you probably want to tune into Question Mark Kicks so we can get an accurate assessment of these guys after weigh-in day. But right now here on Monday, definitely going with Cameroon's Tafon Nchukwi.
So for Jamie Pickett, it will be interesting to see kind of how he deals with the power of Tafon, because he is going to have to close that distance at some point, but every time he does go to do so, he's going to be put right into the fire. And if he does eat one of those big shots, I really doubt he's going to be able to eat it, so I've got Tafon all day.
Matt, really looking forward to this fight. Both of us going with Tafon Nchukwi to get the win in his UFC debut. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt, because we have not 1, not 5, not 10. We have 15 fights on this card to break down. So as we always say, Matt, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.